Okay, so in this video, we're going to look at declaring variables and then using them in our output. So there's 4 data types that you have to know about to be able to store in variables, and variables are places that we can store a value that we might use within our programs. So we've got strings that are bits of text stored within speech marks. Now it's important to note, if I put strings around either of these numbers, they would become strings and we would not be able to do maths with them. We'll see more about that in later videos. Now, I'm just going to run this so I can show you the effect of the things down the bottom here. Now, some other things to note. You'll notice that when I print it out, I'm printing out Bobby is 17 years old and 1.78 meters tall. And here I've used concatenation. And that's where you use pluses to join strings together. So I've got a string stored as name, and I've got another string. Now here, because age is not a string, I have to do what's called casting, and I have to say, I want the string value of this. So I say str, and in brackets, what do I want to be converted to a string? I want age to be. You'll also notice that I've typed spaces inside here because this will literally join them. So there's no space at the end of Bob. So if I didn't put spaces here, it would run straight into the is, and then that would run straight into the age. Same here. So it's very literal when we do it this way. But that's very useful at the end when I want to declare the height, which I again have to say string version of the height, and then put meters just right next to it. So it makes it so I'm able to choose whether I want a space or don't want a space. But if the value is not a string, I have to do this casting. This second example is called string printing, and it's a special method that Python has. It says treat all of the values that I put in that are variables as though they're strings. But it also does something else, which is it automatically puts in a space, which is good most places that we go. But if you see here where we have the meters tall, we end up with a gap. So it's not ideal for use all of the time. Now, the third version is what's called F strings. Now, these are fairly new to Python, but like many things that are new to Python, they're new for a reason, and they make things quite a lot easier to use. So I'm going to be using F strings throughout the remainder of this tutorial. If I was still currently teaching at a school at the moment, I would be saying to people that you need to learn these other 2 methods because you'll see them in a lot of examples, but that I'd be using this F string method from now on. Now with this one, we simply put before our string the letter F. And if we do that, it becomes an F string, and we can use these curly braces, which are a special type of bracket, to surround any of our variable names, and they go in exactly as they are. So here we've got a space because we typed a space. Here there's no space because we didn't type a space, but you don't have to deal with whether or not you have to cast it or whether you don't have to cast it. That's not an issue at this point. Now, we're also going to see in another video coming up next that there's quite a few other advantages to F strings. The F actually stands for formatted strings, and it allows you to do all sorts of formatting that can be really useful in laying out things that you want to output to the user. Now, the final one just outputs the value of true, which is a Boolean value. So I kind of glossed over these a little bit earlier, and to come back to them, this one was a string. So as a whole number, this is an integer, and they need to be written without any speech marks. A float is a number with a decimal point. They need to be written without speech marks. And this is a Boolean. It could be true or false. It should start with a capital letter. You'll notice it changes a different color here. We'll use more of that when we come up to if statements doing selection in a few videos' time. Now, the other thing to point out is, although height might be 1.78 meters, we would never store 1.78 m. That would make it a string that we would have to store. Now, if we wanted to then work out if someone was over or under a certain height, we wouldn't be able to do that because mathematical comparisons can't be made to strings. All right, after doing this one, you're going to go back and go to my REPLs, and the third challenge is going to give you an opportunity to, up the top, declare some variables yourself. It will load any moment now. So you're going to declare some variables of your own, and then you're going to output 3 statements that use at least 2 of each of them. Okay, good luck with that, and I'll see you in the next video.